Oh my goodness, y'all. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Technical difficulties. Oregon Valley girl, how are you doing? Technical difficulties. Gotta get some lip gloss on. There we go. Hey, replay crew, how you doing? Oregon Valley girl, how are you doing? Did you see my great news? Oregon Valley girl? So guys, I did a little bit of research today. I've got this big ass stack of papers. And they are all, well, we'll wait until a few more of you arrive. How's everybody? I had a good day. I watched Nora, and then I watched Hey There Cricket. I watched Nora, and I watched some of the Scooter Report. And I made the Scooter Report, you guys. Hey, TCD, how are you? It is so good to see you. What's new and different? What's everybody been doing today? Hold on a second. I need to check on the dog. He's whining for no apparent good reason. Was Nora on again? No, you were watching Nora. It's like, Nora's on again? You were just watching her. Thank you, TCD. Let me check on Puppy. Orion! Leave it. Hold on, guys. Come on. What are you trying to get? I don't have anything over there. Silly, silly boy. I don't know what you keep trying to get. Here you go. Okay, guys, sorry about that. Replay crew. Yeah, exactly. Guys, I haven't even seen the cats. And somehow I have cat hair. Look at who we have come to visit, because now I have tasty, tasty dog treats. Come here. No, look, come here. What's this? No, come here. Yeah. Come on, sit pretty. That's a good boy. Here he is. There he is for everybody to see. Look at that puppy. Look at that puppy. Look at that puppy. Yeah. Okay, there he goes. He couldn't chew his food while I had a hold of him, y'all. So it's been a bit of a day, y'all. What with Yeah, hi, Orion. He is just... Orion? Just interested in being naughty. So I had yet another day. Yep, I caught most of Liz Ferris up until I went live. And Nora went live with Rabbit earlier today. Shortly after Nora finished her live. Hey, Robert, how you doing, man? But what I spent the afternoon doing was I spent the afternoon in the library, which is why you guys keep hearing the stapler. I should have made that a guess. What are we guessing? So I spent the afternoon at the library looking up what there is out there in academia about Scientology. Orion? Okay. He's behaving. I'm not sure I like this new situation where he's in a different place than me. There are not enough hours in the day. If you don't know, Scooter Mom is having a twice weekly Scooter Mom report. Just a second. I shouldn't be thinking and talking. Okay, forgot my train of thought, guys. That's why I shouldn't do two things at once. That's why I shouldn't do two things at once. I am sorry there's someone at the door, Oregon Valley girl. I hope it isn't somebody going door to door. Scooter Mom, thank you, Robert. Scooter Mom is... There we go. Okay, that's trash. Scooter Mom is doing a scooter report on Mondays and Fridays that is geared just to small channels. And if you haven't subscribed to her yet, you should. Sorry guys, I'm still working out my setup. If you haven't checked her out, you should. Toronto Scientology audit. Why do we have to remind the reminder, right? Somebody's here. There we go. There we go. So go check out. Yeah, I saw that just as you came in, Susan. Thank you for doing that. Now I've got a big picture of me up on the monitor that I don't want to look at. So let me do this and that and this. So all y'all are here. So what I did today is I went to the library and I looked up academic journal articles referencing Scientology that are like less than 10 years old. And I found 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I found 10, 11, maybe more papers that I have printed out to read to you, and they're really, really interesting. About the photo I had before the live stream. What do you mean, Robert? So I thought, really? The thumbnail? I'll have to go look at the video you just posted, Robert. I will go do that after the stream's over. Let's bring that down a little bit. Okay, I will go look. So these all looked relatively, let me grab the last one, y'all. Mom, I am excellent. Okay, thank you, Robert. How are you doing, sweetie? I was just telling everybody, I grabbed the last one, so that makes it 11, you guys. I have 11 papers. Maybe what we can do, what do you guys think? I can read you all the titles if you want, and then we could go through and do the readings once a week if there are things that you guys think might be interesting. I thought they were all really interesting. So what do you guys think? Everybody's been saying you wanted study time. Everybody's been saying you wanted study time back. So I tried I tried to find something to do over the remainder of the summer, although I don't think we have 10 weeks left in the summer, unfortunately. But I thought we'd find something to do for a start. And then we can find a different subject and study it next time. But I thought this might be fun for a start. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo to pick. I don't know what's the worst one, Robert, because honestly, I've not read any of them in detail. So they're all different papers from all different from all different disciplines. I need a webcam, guys. It is clear. I need a webcam. Okay, you guys are just going to leave. So this one is from a journal called Newman. And the title says Technological Exorcism. Hi, Kat. It's good to see you. Technological Exorcism. Body Thetans and Scientology's Secret Mythology. So I can read you the abstract if you'd like. You guys want to start with this one since it's the one on the top? Or do you want me to read all the... Or do you want me... What do you guys think? Do you want me to just read this one? Technological Exorcism? Or do you want me to read through all of them and then we can decide? Read it? Okay. I need reading glasses. Look, reading glasses. So the abstract, so it's Technological Exorcism, Body Thetans, and Scientology's Secret Mythology. Yeah, I think it's kind of a cool title, isn't it, Cricket? It was published, the publication date is 2016, and it was studied in a journal called Newman. And it was a special issue on religious studies approaches to Scientology. So I'm not sure if I'm not even sure if we're going to get more journal articles from this special issue, but that's where it's from. It's 2016, so it's a little on the older side. And it's written by James R. Lewis. Here is the info for any of y'all who want it. Okay. When applying the category of mythology to a contemporary new religious group like the Church of Scientology, one has to choose from among several different categories of narratives which could be regarded as mythological. If we set aside the body of tales surrounding L. Ron Hubbard, Church of Scientology's founder, which could arguably be classified as mythology. One of Scientology's key stories is the so-called Xenu narrative, also referred to as the OT3 teachings. Although this story is only revealed after one has tread the bridge for some time, it is arguably a foundational myth which sets the Scientology enterprise into a cosmological framework. While the present article will focus on the Xenu story, it also discusses Hubbard's self-mythologizing, including his discovery of Incident 2, the Xenu narrative, as a hero myth. Lori, how you doing? Okay, that was the abstract, y'all. Hi, Janelle, how are you? That was the abstract, so here we go. Get ready. A margarita would be nice, Lori. Xenu passed his tongue over dry, cracked lips. You can proceed when ready. Meanwhile, on the face of Earth, hundreds of thousands of hungry, hopeless people sat bemused on the slopes where they had been left. The dispirited and ravaged Ninth Army soldiers were too dejected to move. Only one of them was attempting to free his hands of their binding. And the little girl was down on her knees, rocking her doll. Bruised and dirty, tears coursed silently down her face. She looked upward at the sky and saw nothing there. Hugging her doll closer, she began to whimper, not understanding where she was or why. The chief lightly held the electronic box. Its red lights glowed softly, hypnotically. Face expressionless, he moved his right hand toward the box. Finger poised, he hesitated only a moment, then smoothly, gracefully even, he depressed the center button. Simultaneously, the planted charges erupted. Atomic blasts ballooned from the craters of Loa, Vesuvius, Shasta, Washington, Fujiyama, Etna, and many, many others. Arching higher and higher, up and outwards, towering clouds mushroomed, shot through with flashes of flame, waste, and fission. Great winds raced tumultuously across the face of Earth, spreading tales of destruction. Sorry, guys. Debris-studded and sickly yellow, the atomic clouds followed close on the heel of the winds. Their bow-shaped fronts encroached inexorably upon forest, city, and mankind. They delivered their gifts of death and radiation. Casually, the chief still held the electronic box. His craft rocked a little as if echoing the passing violence below. Through the windshield, he looked down at Earth, its cloud formations, now a reddish, uneven swirl. Also observing this view, by way of a dozen screens popped up around his office, was Xenu. He tapped his fingers in time with the soft, gentle symphony his office stereo was playing. and took a delighted sip of his long, cool drink. It was over. The charred remains of the little girl's doll bobbed on a choppy sea, lamented only by a low morning breeze. That is Hubbard, 1975. Let us see. That is out of Revolt in the Stars. If anybody follows his books, it's available as a PDF. That's from Revolt in the Stars. Given L. Ron Hubbard's, LRH's, assertion that one could die from exposure to the Xenu narrative without proper preparation, not to mention the intensity with which the Church of Scientology has guarded its formerly secret inner teachings, it is not a little surprising that in the mid-70s, Hubbard tried to sell a screenplay to Hollywood built around the premise of these evil Xenu lurking innocents around Earth's volcanoes. The exploding volcano found on the cover of LRH's first Dianetics book is a conscious reference to this event. Yes, child number 4.
I did not mean to interrupt you. I have a light. Would you like it? It clips. You can change the type of light and the brightness.
Sure. Will you clip it right there?
Where?
Right there. And then plug it in. Since you can do the crawly thing.
Will you turn your camera off briefly?
Let me turn my camera off briefly, y'all.
Thank you.
Maybe that's not a good place. We can deal with it later.
I can. I think.
You got that there?
Yep. That's the thingy.
That's the switch?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Lady Jane. The lighting tech has arrived. We've got lighty tech. We've got cool heaty tech. We will continue in a moment, y'all. We now have extra light. Let's see if it makes a difference. Probably not much. Turn it off.
In your eye?
In my eyes right now. Yeah. Thank you.
I was just trying to get rid of it because I don't use it.
Okay.
I thought you would have a use for it. Enjoy your reading.
Okay. Okay. Back to the text. This is a central part of the mythology, which is at the core of Scientology's secret teachings. Nowadays, one can usually find either a copy of the screenplay or a novelized version from which the above passage is taken on the internet as a PDF file under the title Revolt in the Stars. To anyone familiar with his fiction, it is clear that the language of the screenplay novelette is Hubbard style. Plus, no one from the Church of Scientology has tried to deny LRH's authorship. You had to put in your earbuds? Guys, I am a mess. Lady Jane, you probably were. gifted a membership. Sorry guys, I'm having technological problems. I have been literally, you guys remember, I do everything. Hi, No Face, did you sneak in here? I didn't see you. You did. No Face is no bot today. So I keep trying to touch the monitor because I'm used to touching the iPad. And now I've got my iPad mounted between my two monitors because the reason I was late is because I was having technical difficulties. And the place that I've got, I keep trying to mouse to my iPad. It's pretty funny. So not only am I trying to touch the monitors to make them work, I'm trying to drag the mouse to my iPad. Further, there is a letter posted on a number of websites in which Hubbard discusses the never-produced film vision of Revolt in the Stars. The post is said to have been taken from WikiLeaks. In that missive, he says that the film will, quote, recreate the events which affected this sector circa 75 million years ago, though it will present the data in a way which releases charge and brings up awareness and confront, unquote. Yeah, no bot. In other words, LRH was saying that he had sanitized the narrative so that while the information would not kill people, at the same time it would evoke recognition in buried memories from past lifetimes that would make the task of spreading Scientology a bit easier. No bot is going to his charging port. Okay, No Face, it's glad to have you back. So again, in other words, LRH was saying that he had sanitized the narrative so that while the information would not kill people, at the same time it would evoke recognition in buried memories from past lifetimes that would make the task of spreading Scientology a bit easier. This letter, plus information about Hubbard's own struggles with body thetans, BTs, as discussed below, at various stages of his life, seemed to indicate that he believed in at least part of the mythological system he created. And here, the references to Atac and Rathbun. Thus, while Hubbard might have been a cynical manipulator, he was not, as many critics allege, a completely sinister con man, in the specific sense that he did not invent an entirely fake religion in which he himself did not believe. Hubbard's belief in his own system should also be evident from the massive number of technical bulletins on auditing procedures he composed across the course of his lifetime. These technical bulletins were published by the church in a series of thick volumes known as the Red Volumes, arguably much too much work for someone who did not believe in what he was doing. Hanging over your typing arm? I get that, Janelle. That happens to me. It's a really interesting conclusion. Thus, while Hubbard might have been a cynical manipulator, he was not, as many critics allege, a completely sinister con man in the specific sense that he did not invent an entirely fake religion in which he himself did not believe. Hubbard's belief in his own system should also be evident from the massive number of technical bulletins on auditing procedures he composed over the course of his lifetime. These technical bulletins were published by the church in a series of thick volumes known as the Red Volumes. Arguably much too much work for someone who did not believe in what he was doing. You think he started to believe his con? That makes more sense, Chica. LRH's, oh my dear, indeed. LRH's religious system is a complex bricolage of diverse ideas and practices drawn from many sources. Right? Hubbard referred to the aspect of Scientology which drew from ideas about spaceships, life on other planets, and aliens as space opera. He started getting really into it and it started to make sense to him. You can see that. There you go. In a recent article, Susan Rain tracks down the origin of this term in science fiction circles. In contrast to the genre's stories which imaginatively explored the potentialities of science, the sci-fi subgenre of the space opera, derived from soap opera, is a looser, freer tradition that allows for complete departures from the rational possibilities of science, allowing space opera authors to create scenarios uninhibited by the norms of scientifically grounded proposals. Interesting, y'all. In other words, space operas are about interplanetary travel, beings of outer space often in conflict with the people of Earth, and other similar science fiction themes. As hostile observers like to point out, Hubbard's early professional success was as a popular fiction writer, particularly in the space opera subgenre. Such critics usually assert that Hubbard simply transferred his success as a popular author to the spiritual realm where he authored a religion. Hence, Scientology is an invented religion that is no more real than one of LRH's sci-fi novels. Efforts to reduce Scientology to just science fiction, however, typically ignore the pre-existing connection between science fiction and occult spirituality in American culture, a connection explored at length in Jeffrey Kripal's Mutants and Mystics. Scientology's place in this sci-fi occult subculture is discussed in some depth in Harriet Whitehead's insightful essay on these interconnections. William Sims Bainbridge, yet another academician deeply familiar with Scientology, even regards Scientology's roots in the popular science fiction subculture to be one of its strengths. The original piece announcing Hubbard's Dianetics, the Dianetics movement was the precursor to the Church of Scientology, appeared in Astounding Science Fiction magazine, indicating that the link between Scientology and science fiction was there from the beginning. During its developmental phase, Dianetics auditing was tested out on science fiction fans recruited by Hubbard's early collaborator, John Campbell, who was also his publisher. No, I don't. Furthermore, science fiction fans were not only the first converts to Dianetics, but Scientology appears to continue to be recruiting sci-fi fans, I don't think he's a Scientology. I do think that comparative religion scholars tend to tread lightly on dogmatic issues because they are comparative religion scholars. And so they will generally only study the religion, not make value judgments on the religion, if that makes any sense whatsoever, Chica. One of the keys for understanding the church's inner teachings is that Hubbard considered the genre of science fiction to reveal some kind of collective recollection of what happened to humankind, rather the Thetans, a very long time ago in other parts of the universe. Furthermore, Hubbard declared that all science fiction writers actually write about factual events. The basis of LRH's claim was the idea that sci-fi authors were unconsciously tapping into memories from their whole track. Given this perspective, Hubbard would not have judged himself guilty of plagiarism when he took the name of a Marvel Comics character, Zemnu the Titan, as the name for his OT3 villain, though he did take the precaution of reducing the central consonants in the name to Xenu, or sometimes Zimu. The point here is that while critics take the obvious influences of LRH's sci-fi on his religion as evidence that Scientology was just fiction, Hubbard's notion of the link between science fiction and factual history meant that he could explicitly acknowledge the parallels between Scientology and sci-fi, asserting that both were true. It's interesting, guys. Let me know if you have other questions. Science fiction does come true sometimes. That's true, Kat. That's a good point. In addition to Revolt in the Stars, a number of different academic observers have noted that LRH included numerous space opera references in his writings. Thus, for example, in Have You Lived Before This Life, originally published well before the OT levels were announced in 1966, 17 out of the 52 auditing experiences recounted described past lifetimes on other planets. In an even earlier book, Scientology, A History of Man, originally published in 1952 under the title What to Audit, UFO-logical themes are dealt with, and all the substantial claims from the Xenu story are detectable. Exactly, Chica. Hubbard announced the third operating Thetan level in late 1967, and followers soon began auditing at OT3. For anyone who had dutifully studied the extant body of Scientology literature available up to that point, the Xenu narrative would have felt familiar rather than completely alien. Although the idea of parasitic body thetans, discussed below, would still have come as something of a shock even to sophisticated Scientologists. Auditing and OT3 processing. Within the Church of Scientology, there are a number of higher levels of knowledge that followers can access after they have reached the state of clear, itself the product of years of psychological processing using Dianetics auditing, the church's basic therapeutic technique as well as its central ritual practice. As in traditional psychotherapy, during auditing, a trained auditor works with a client referred to as a pre-clear. During the early days of the Dianetics movement, Hubbard started using the e-meter, a device invented by Volney Matheson based on lie detector technology that was used to help auditors uncover a client's psychological and spiritual issues, especially engrams, residues of traumas experienced while in a state of full or partial unconsciousness. These residues are held in the PC's reactive mind, the unconscious mind, whereas reaching clear meant that one was free of one's psychological problems from this lifetime as well as from prior lifetimes. Scientology auditing is directed at getting rid of certain obstacles at a spiritual level that are holding one back from becoming a totally free, unrestricted spiritual being. Hubbard, who seemed to take genuine pleasure in inventing new terms, though he attributed the necessity of forging new terms to Alfred Korzybski's general semantics, whatever that is, referred to what other religions called the soul as the thetan, and to the goal of spiritual freedom as operating thetan. Hence, the upper 8 levels of Scientology processing are referred to as the OT levels and are numbered. While the content of all these levels is confidential, it is only at the OT3 level that the initiate receives the central revelation about Xenu. At the beginning of their OT3 training, Scientologists are given a folder containing a brief version of the story written in Hubbard's own handwriting. With a little patience plus a basic familiarity with anti-Scientology websites, one can usually find a facsimile copy of this narrative online. A typed version of the information given to OT3 initiates can be found in the 13th chapter of Marjorie Wakefield's The Road to Xenu, as well as in Mikhail Rothstein's chapter, His Name Was Xenu, He Used Renegades, in my Scientology anthology. Instead of reproducing the original text, I will use Jeff Hawkins' account from his book, Counterfeit Dreams. I sat with trembling hands and began to read the materials scrawled out in Hubbard's trademark handwriting. He described the incident in detail, all about how an evil galactic overlord named Xenu had tried to solve overpopulation by taking all the rebellious Thetans, encasing them in ice, and shipping them to Earth, then called Tegeac, in spaceships that looked exactly like modern-day DC-8s. They were then dumped into volcanoes. The volcanoes were exploded with H-bombs, and the Thetans then went through days of brainwashing with pictures of angels, devils, and everything else imaginable. Even in this short overview, it is easy enough to see the differences between Revolt in the Stars and the OT3 narrative. In the OT3 version, the victims of the bomb blasts were transported to volcanoes while frozen in ice, whereas the Revolt in the Star victims were not. More significantly, their post-mortem souls were implanted with false information that in effect hypnotized them into limiting their metaphysical powers, an aspect of the incident not mentioned in Revolt in the Stars. Hey, Scooter Mom. How you doing? To pick up the narrative from the account in Janet Reitman's Inside Scientology. Has anybody heard of Janet Reitman's book? Scooter Mom, we talked about you. Thank you for the call out earlier today. Great job on your first show. It is hard to get everything to work, so I think you did a great job. Congratulations. Pardon me, y'all. Pardon me. To pick up the narrative from the account in Janet Reitman's Inside Scientology. It was fun. Good. I'm glad it was fun. The Thetans, or souls of the captives, were then brainwashed or implanted to rid them of their original identities. Millions of years later, when life began again on Tijiak, the traumatized Thetans attached themselves to human bodies. This was the crux of OT3, that one's problems were not caused merely by the reactive mind, but by aberrant body Thetans, each one reliving the trauma of Xenu's ancient genocide. To truly clear oneself, a Scientologist had to audit each one of these body Thetans through a specific process Hubbard had designed, unclustering them, clearing their engrams, and ultimately freeing them of their implants. This, Hubbard believed, would be each individual's salvation, and ultimately would be the salvation of mankind. Fuchsia indeed, Scooter Mom. Fuchsia indeed. In a relatively early volume on his Scientology experience, which, like Reitman's book, is also entitled Inside Scientology, Robert Kaufman's OT3 materials describe body Thetans as leech souls that have affixed themselves to your body. While they are not outright malicious, you are much better off without them. He eventually, quote, managed to find out where body Thetans were located while watching the e-meter. I was to mentally scan myself until I got a read, and at that part of the body was a leech soul. Other descriptions of how to go about locating attached body Thetans describe it as a process, I can speak, of initially focusing on sensation, pressure, or masses in one's body as potential sites where links with body Thetans might be located. I just keep sinking lower and lower. I'm going to need a camera that tracks me. I can tell already because I want to lean back, and that's going to make me disappear. But if I lean forward, then I'm way too close. So we will find the right distance. The body Thetan is then audited through Incident 2, the Xenu event. Should a body Thetan not respond, one then audits through an earlier event, Incident 1, which is a disconnected series of sounds, lights, and images described as a very ancient fall experience in which the Thetan drops out of its godlike state and into the present universe. The memory left in the Thetan from Incident 1 is loud snap, waves of light, chariot comes out, turns left and right, cherub comes out, blows horn, comes close, shattering series of snaps, cherub fades back and retreats, blackness dumped on Thetan. Parallel to the auditing out of engrams at the Dianetics level, the reading on the e-meter tells the person going through the process whether or not the BT lets go of its attachment to his or her body. Once audited and blown or released, the former body Thetan will then fly off trying to find some fresh body of their own. Delivery rooms and hospitals being favorite places for this. In a memo penned shortly after the OT3 level was announced, Hubbard wrote that body Thetans are just Thetans. When you get rid of one, he goes off and possibly squares around, picks up a daisy, picks up a body, or admires Daisy. He is, in fact, a sort of cleared being. He cannot fail to eventually, if not at once, regain many abilities. Many have been asleep for the last 75 million years. That's Hubbard. These body Thetans just. Ross Rassa, how you doing? I didn't see you come in. We are tonight just reading some academic papers about Scientology. So how is everybody? Is it break time? Are you following this? Are you liking it? Delusional. Yes. One fish, two fish, L. Ron bullshit. I like that, no face. Oh my goodness, my mouth gets dry, y'all. It gets so dry. Okay, this is really tiny print. You guys aren't hollering for me to stop, so I'm going to assume that means continue. Body Thetans. While the idea of body Thetans might seem completely counterintuitive, because it is, the notion comes into focus when we entertain the idea that body Thetans might possibly be the sources of our different subpersonalities, unchecked emotions, and vagrant desires. To cite from an online excerpt from Bent Corydon's book on Scientology in 1987, I'm not sure if it gets better, no face, I haven't read it. The entities are being various things, like a body part, a bone, arm, cell, whatever, or a particular personality or condition, such as TV watcher, or fear, or worker, or solitary angry man, and so on. According to this line of thought, people get confused as to who they are and who they are not. A person hears these voices or feels desires and so on and thinks he is the source of them. Yet the theory goes, you are not necessarily the originator of these thoughts or impulses. Another may be. So, by identifying who is the being who is the source of these vocalizations or impulses, and spotting where it is located, you are freed to think for yourself. I'm not sure if he mentioned the whole track, TCD. You realize that the body Thetans are different from you, that their mental pictures, ideas, and degraded impulses do not originate from you. The existence of body Thetans also explains why, quote, when a clear or above is given Dianetic auditing, there will be problems as the PC's body Thetans will start supplying false, earlier similar incidents when the PC is asked for one, if there are none in the PC's own reactive mind. The BTs respond to the PC's thoughts in a totally automatic way, and conversely, the PC can see the body Thetans' mental image pictures just fine, as if the BTs were the PC himself. I know, Kat. OT3 is a solo auditing level. Okay, we're getting up to exorcism here, guys. The next heading is clearing and exorcism. So we're getting to the parallel with exorcism. I know it's taken us a while, but we are getting there. Xenu Marlene, y'all. Xenu Marlene. OT3 is a solo auditing level, meaning that one holds the cylindrical electrodes, the cans, oneself while reading the dial on the e-meter as Kaufman described earlier. Once people finish the OT3 level and imagine themselves free of BTs, they subsequently discovered that they are afflicted with additional body thetans that are dormant, that is, in a very low state of consciousness, dead or below dead, which is why they did not respond to solo auditing at OT3. So during the next 4 levels, one needs to undertake NOTS, New Era Dianetics for Operating Thetans processing. On NOTS, New Era Dianetics for Operating Thetans, you handle the BTs that need to be stirred awake before you can communicate them, unlike the easy ones you got rid of on OT3. Despite their dormant state, they can still cause problems just like the earlier ones. Right? No face? The OT4 level is an advanced version of Scientology's drug clearing rundown. The OT5 level, referred to as the second wall of fire, OT3 was the first wall of fire, involves working with an auditor. Because of the involvement of an auditor, in effect the exorcist, it is at this level that OT processing is most like an exorcism. So an auditor has you, the main guy in control, ask each BT, what are you and who are you? The body thetans are then supposed to separate out and realize that they are in fact themselves, that they are not some body part or whatever. Not exactly high drama a la The Exorcist, but otherwise structurally more similar to an exorcism, e.g. asking the possessing entity, who are you, than the OT3 level. Subsequent OT levels go back to being solo processes. Clearing and exorcism. The parallel with exorcism is straightforward enough. Unlike diabolical possession, in which one is more or less completely under the control of demons, in LRH's teachings, human beings are burdened by the degraded thoughts and emotions of confused body thetans. Thus, for instance, people with multiple personality disorders are victims of taking on the personalities of these leech souls. Reminiscent of Hubbard's thinking about our unconscious engrams, the BTs are also responsible for our diseases and, duplicating LRH's original claims about the clear state, anyone free from body thetans will supposedly never get ill. Some critics of the Church of Scientology claim that Hubbard's model for body thetans is possession and that his OT auditing ritual is based on Christian exorcism. Thus, for example, the prominent ex-member and critic John Atack makes the following assertion in his essay on Hubbard and the occult. On leaving Scientology, most people cannot see that the body thetans of operating thetan levels 3 to 7 are in fact the demons of Christian belief. The OT levels are factually the most expensive form of exorcism known to man. And that's John Atack from his essay, Hubbard and the Occult. As noted, the parallel with exorcism is clear enough, but it is unlikely that Hubbard consciously drew his paradigm for Scientology auditing from traditional rites of exorcism. One can, of course, point to the protagonist's imagined demons as part of a psychotic breakdown in LRH's novel Fear, and to Hubbard's discussion of demons in his first Dianetics book, where he emphasizes that there are no real demons in Dianetics. Demons are, rather, engrams. So, Hubbard was clearly aware of traditional mythology about demons and exorcism, and the notion of exorcism might have been vaguely in the background of his mind when fashioning OT auditing. However, the notion of achieving a better, healthier state by removing obstacles was deeply embedded in LRH's thinking, and I would argue that this metaphor is the structural foundation for the process of removing BTs, rather than the paradigm of traditional exorcism. You guys are awfully quiet. Are you still liking this? Initially, this metaphor was expressed in Dianetics therapy. Just clear individuals of the corrupting influence of their engrams and healthy psyches will emerge. Many of Scientology's other practices and social outreach programs align with this same pattern. Narconon, for example, which is Scientology's drug rehabilitation program, is a natural extension of Hubbard's purification rundown. LRH devised a regime of physiological purification focused on impurities such as drugs, which tend to interfere not only with one's health, but also with one's thinking and perception of the world. The residues of the drugs one has ingested and other impurities that have been taken into the body must be purged before an individual can become a healthy, fully functioning human being. The parallel between this physiological treatment and the auditing of psychological engrams should be transparent. Another activity the church supports in the world is the World Literacy Crusade, which focuses on bringing Scientology study technology to the inner cities. Among the other principles of this study tech is the notion that when readers skip over a word they do not understand, they tend not to fully grasp anything else they read past that particular word. Consequently, one of the core processes of Hubbard's study technology is going back over a text until one finds the problem word, learning its meaning from a dictionary, and then proceeding to read forward from that point. Like the drug residues cleared by the purification program, the word skipped while reading comes to play a role similar to an engram, namely a warping factor that must be cleared before one can enjoy optimum learning. And, in fact, this process is referred to as word clearing. First Minnesota goodbye, y'all. Solving problems by removing blockages even carries over into what we might call Hubbard's sociology. When an organization is not working properly, Scientologists attempt to identify a suppressive person, which before LRH robbed the term of its technical meaning by applying the SP label indiscriminately, originally, that's a funny note. Let me read that again. Solving problems by removing blockages even carries over into what we might call Hubbard's sociology. When an organization is not working properly, Scientologists attempt to identify a suppressive person, which, open paren, before LRH robbed the term of its technical meaning by applying the SP label indiscriminately, close paren, originally meant a negative, dysfunctional individual who acted as sort of a social engram, fouling things up. Thus, while auditing out body thetans is certainly comparable to exorcism, it should be clear enough that this process represents a rather straightforward extension of the practice of clearing engrams, drug residues, misunderstood words, and the like. In other words, Hubbard's model for OT auditing was not traditional exorcism. Rather, his foundational model was Dianetics auditing. The metaphor of blockages even carries over into LRH's way of discussing the indoctrination that thetans receive between lifetimes. Hey, Brian, how are you doing? It's good to see you, man. The metaphor of blockages even carries over into LRH's way of discussing the indoctrination that thetans receive between lifetimes. A recurring event on the whole track is the forcible implantation by a variety of alien entities at off-Earth locales of false information on a wide variety of topics in thetans while they are between lives. Hubbard described implants as a way to dispose of captured armies, as a mean to overwhelm the thetan, to force obedience to behavior patterns, to fit a thetan to a colonization project, amongst many other objectives. Furthermore, implants are responsible for all varieties of illness, apathy, degradation, neurosis, and insanity. Describing the psychological process of indoctrination in terms of the physical metaphor of receiving implants might seem rather odd, but once again, it is perfectly congruent with the dominant metaphor in the back of Hubbard's mind. Some commentators have drawn a parallel between LRH's implant notion and G.I. Gurdjieff's discussion of the organ Kundabuffer, an angelic implant, or perhaps better, the remains of this implant, which warps humanity's perception of reality, as discussed in his Beelzebub's Tales to his Grandson in 1950. The larger context of these tales is that the extraterrestrial Beelzebub is recounting human history to his grandson Hussein while they are traveling back to their home planet. The space opera context of the story would have been attractive to Hubbard, strongly suggesting Gurdjieff's book as a source. However, the analogy with engrams, discussed as quasi-things that are removed during Dianetics auditing, could explain the concrete metaphor of implants without invoking Beelzebub's tales to his grandson. Exactly, Oregon Valley girl. The systems around it are fascinating. Mythology. One of the problems with myth is that it has multiple meanings, one of which is falsehood, as when myth and reality are utilized as contrasting terms. Within the discipline of religious studies, a handy brief definition is sacred story, which does not immediately judge a myth as being historically either true or false. Another problem is that there are numerous theories of myth that are often not compatible with each other. No Face should open the bar. Indeed, No Face. Excuse me for a moment, y'all. I have a text I need to answer. Hold on. Okay. Sorry about that. Flea, how are you doing? A myth tells a truth doesn't mean it's a true story. There you go, Brian. That's a good definition. That's a good definition. Cocktails for Cabana Chica, rum cocktails. Rum cocktails for Cabana Chica. Flea Factory, how are you doing? An important category of sacred stories, I am good, Flea, are cosmogonic myths, narratives that explain origins. Scientology has sets of myths that explain the beginning of things, corresponding with Incident 1 and Incident 2. Incident 1 explains the origins of the meshed universe, the universe consisting of matter, energy, space, and time. The Incident 1 story, as I have mentioned, a fall narrative. Which discusses how Thetans became involved with and eventually trapped in Nest. Incident 2, the Xenu story, is another kind of myth of origins describing what happened millions of years ago to produce the world as we know it and explaining why the current human condition is what it is. One popular approach to mythology, a depth psychological approach embodied in the works of Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, has wide appeal outside of academia. This approach views myths as representing purely psychological meanings. In Jung's words, myths are original revelations of the preconscious psyche, involuntary statements about unconscious psychic happenings, and anything but allegories of physical processes. The academic mainstream has largely rejected this school of thought, at least as a comprehensive theory of mythology, though Jung's notion that reports of flying saucers represent psychological projections is still referred to favorably. Interesting. Early studies of mythology focused on texts of mythic narratives intended to speculate about the meaning of myths independent of cultural context. By the early 20th century, this approach came under sustained criticism from influential anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski. Based on his fieldwork among Trobriand Islanders, Malinowski described myth as not merely a story told, but a reality lived. Myth fulfills in primitive culture an indispensable function. It expresses, enhances, and codifies belief. It safeguards and enforces morality. It vouches for the efficiency of ritual and contains practical rules for the guidance of man. Myth is thus a vital ingredient of human civilization.
It is not an idle tale, but a hard-worked, active force. It is not an intellectual explanation or an artistic imagery, but a pragmatic charter of primitive faith and moral wisdom. Xenu is your hero, Lady Jane out. That's hilarious. Another important early theorist was William Robertson Smith, the first thinker to put forward the notion that ritual precedes myth. I'm not Xenu, Ro. How are you, Ro? In other words, Smith argued, in most cases, myths arise as attempts to provide an explanation for rituals. In the case at hand, we might speculate that, as Hubbard was developing the higher spiritual auditing practices, which, as I have discussed, are Scientology's central ritual practices, for his series of growing OT levels, he was also compelled to develop a narrative explanation for these processes. In other words, he had to create or to adopt a story that would play the functional equivalent of a myth at these higher levels. He then hit upon the idea of drawing from the space opera mythology he had already developed in his fiction and in such early Scientology works as Scientology: A History of Man and Have You Lived Before This Life? As I have already noted, the dominance of the removal of obstacles metaphor in LRH's thinking, plus the importance of his space opera teachings, meant that it would have been only a short step to go from auditing engrams to auditing body thetans. Ooh, no face. That sounds excellent. For higher level Scientologists, then, Hubbard's teachings about Xenu and Incident 2 became the mythic justification, or to use Malinowski's term, the charter for the Church of Scientology. The purpose of the church's work is to clear the planet of all of the obstacles that keep humanity from reaching the utopian goal of a civilization without insanity, without criminals, and without war, where the able can prosper and honest beings can have rights, and where man is free to rise to greater heights. Well, this is interesting. I have had thoughts about this before and not made a note of it. So, while I am sitting here disappearing, I am not going to find a pen. I had a pen. Let me find a pen. Hold on. I have wheels on this chair, but it doesn't like to roll. Pen. I need a pen. Because this whole idea of utopia. I mean, do you guys remember middle school? Do you guys remember middle school? Do you remember reading all those books about utopia when we were in middle school? Did you guys have to do that too? Or was that just me that had to read all those stories about utopia? Right. And what was the moral of every one of those fucking stories, TCD? I'm sorry. Every single one. I don't even get it. Every single one. We need a brain break. Okay. How much do we have left? Oh, we can finish, guys. No problem. You didn't have to read those in middle school, Lady Jane Out? Well, TCD, tell me. Not in the Canadian system? Really, Chica? What were they? Tuck Everlasting is one. What are some others, you guys? What are some others? Tuck Everlasting is one that I remember. What others do we remember? Let me see. Yes, we did the second Minnesota Goodbye. We did the second Minnesota Goodbye. Old Yeller is a Utopia book? Really? Robinson Crusoe. Let's see. Looking for some Walden 2. Walden 2. Interesting. Huckleberry, 12 Angry Men and Huckleberry Finn, huh? Well, every utopian book that I've ever read about trying to create the ultimate society, every book I've ever read about trying to create the ultimate society, ends up being, there's got to be some terrible sacrifice made for the perfect society. So they're always awful. They're always awful. So the idea that we need a utopia is just annoying. Exactly, No Face. Thank you. Well, Chica, that's why I had to look up a list, because I couldn't remember. Guys, I cannot stay centered in this. Okay, how's that? We're getting it down little by little. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 3.5 pages. Okay, I think we can kill it. What do you guys think? No Face got it right. Utopia always ends in dystopia. Every time, always, without fucking fail, y'all. Always. Scientology's hero myth. This does not, of course, mean that lower-level Scientologists had to get by as best they could without any sort of mythological system. You were reading Stephen King and everybody else was reading Flowers in the Attic, Brian, I expect. This does not, of course, mean that lower-level Scientologists had to get by as best they could without any sort of mythological system. Everyone in the organization works toward the goal of clearing the planet. The difference between higher and lower organizational levels is in understanding precisely what that means. Additionally, Scientology contains the functional equivalent of a hero myth. Hubbard had actively promoted an enlarged view of himself to others throughout his adult life, and later came to recount narratives about his adventures to members of the Church of Scientology. In the words of Cyril Vosper, a former member of LRH's staff, he told so many stories of his exploits in South America, the West Indies, and places that he would have had to have been at least 48 years old to have had time to have done all these things. No, let me reread that. In the words of Cyril Vosper, a former member of LRH's staff, he told so many stories of his exploits in South America, the West Indies, and places that he would have had to have been at least 483 years old to have had time to have done all those things. But that doesn't really matter. I mean, it was just very entertaining, really, except that he turned it into a religion. Though presented by the Church of Scientology as historically accurate, the narrative of Hubbard's life should not be understood as a biography in the conventional sense, but rather as a hagiography. That is, an idealized narrative composed quite self-consciously of mythic themes. Critics of the Church have regularly called attention to Hubbard's expanded sense of self in the Hymn of Asia, in which he refers to himself as Mateya, the future Buddha. Address me and you address the Buddha. Furthermore, by the late 70s and early 80s, LRH seems to have entertained the idea that he was as great as Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad. And either Hubbard or someone else at the higher levels of the church initiated a messianic project in the late 1970s that was to have eventually presented him to the world as the new Messiah. This project was never actualized. LRH or someone else in the Church of Scientology seems to have realized it was untenable, but it does indicate that Hubbard's hagiography was already in an advanced stage of development well before his passing. Meredith Sundby Sorensen suggests that Hubbard's move to amplify his authority could have initially been set in motion by the highly insecure situation he found himself in as leader of the decentralized Dianetics movement. However, long before the Messianic Project, Hubbard had often presented himself as an adventurer and a war hero. He also explicitly cast himself as a hero in the story of his discovery of the truth that went into his early manuscript, Excalibur. A number of different observers have noted that LRH's recounting of his experience follows the contours of a hero myth. It began with an operation. I took gas as an anesthetic, and while under the influence of it, my heart must have stopped beating, as in my terror, I knew I was slipping through the curtain and into the land of shades. It was like sliding helter-skelter down into a vortex of scarlet, and it was knowing that one was dying, and the process of dying was far from pleasant. For a long time after I knew that death is 8 inches below life, it was terrible work climbing up out of the cone again, for something did not want to let me back through the wall, and then when I willed my going, I determined it against all opposition. And something began to cry out, "Don't let him know," and then fainter, "Don't let him know." Though badly shaken, I was quite rational when I was restored. The people around me looked frightened, more frightened than I. I was not thinking about what I had been through nearly so much as what I knew. In 1967, Hubbard was then to have said to have written down the knowledge he had gained, encapsulated in the admonition to survive from what appears to have been a near-death experience in a dentist's chair. This resulted in a never-published document, Excalibur, though LRH later asserted that everything he realized in that experience was eventually incorporated into his Dianetics teaching. In terms of its structure, the above account follows the pattern of the universal hero myth outlined in Joseph Campbell's The classic, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. A little bit, poet. In 1967, Hubbard had another profound experience in which he claimed that he had found the key to why our sector of the cosmos was so troubled. The mystery of this particular area of the universe has been, as far as its track is concerned, completely occluded. No one has ever been able to make any breakthrough and come off with it and know what happened. As a matter of fact, it is so occluded that if anyone tried to penetrate it, as I'm sure many have, they died. This is quoted in Jeff Hawkins' book. Through this experience, Hubbard is able to bring together his space opera mythology with his personal hero myth. Thus, in his instructions to people about to begin OT3 processing, LRH discusses this mystery and portrays himself heroically. In December 1967, I knew someone had to take the plunge. I did and emerged very knocked out, but alive. Probably the only one ever to do so in 7,500,000 years. 75 million years. I have all the data now, but only that given here is needful. One's body is a mass of individual thetans stuck to oneself or to the body. One has to clean them off by running incident 2 and incident 1. It is a long job requiring care, patience, and good auditing. You are running beings. They respond like any pre-clear. Some large, some small. Thetans believed they were one. This is the primary error. Good luck. In other words, Hubbard had single-handedly solved the mystery of human existence and, at mortal risk to himself, paved the way for others to achieve their own salvation. There you go, you guys. I don't disagree. Conclusion. Here you go, guys. Conclusion. As a number of observers have noted, when organizations unfortunate enough to be labeled cults are presented in fictional portrayals, writers frequently take widely held perspectives of actually religious movements and render them either more absurd or more frightening. Furthermore, as one might anticipate, comedic presentations of alternative religions like Scientology tend to portray their belief systems in exaggeratedly farcical ways. The most well-known fictional representation of the Church of Scientology has been in an episode of South Park from 2005, which caricatured the church's once secret OT3 teachings. In terms of number of people influenced, this single episode probably did more to tarnish the Church of Scientology's image than anything prior to the 2015 Going Clear documentary. However, the belief system of any religion, whether traditional or emergent, can be caricatured in the same way, as South Park has also done, for example, the Latter-day Saints. To end this article on a more positive note, an attractive aspect of any living mythology is that it gives participants hope, a sense of meaningfulness, and a sense of purpose. In an executive directive sent out 4 years before his death, Hubbard, perhaps sensing that his remaining time on this planet was short, tried to inspire followers with the space opera vision of the broader meaning of the birthday game, a Church of Scientology tradition in which year to year Scientology centers compete with each other to have the strongest statistics by the time of LRH's birthday. By doing so, Hubbard wrote every Scientologist into his science fiction myth by asking them to become heroic figures who contribute to the clearing, not just of Earth, but of the entire universe. So what really is the birthday game all about? You are giving me and yourselves another giant step on the road to a cleared planet. And someday, how many birthdays later, you'll give me and yourselves and all your friends a cleared planet. And I'll go off with you to Target 2 and we'll clear another one. And someday, way, way up the track, we'll have this whole universe back in native state and impervious to the faults and traps of yesteryear. Hubbard also seems to be saying goodbye in the final section of his From Clear to Eternity, another executive letter from May of the same year. Planets and cultures are frail things. They do not endure. I cannot promise you that you will make it. I can only provide the knowledge and give you your chance. The rest is up to you. I strongly advise you to work hard at it. Don't waste this brief breath in eternity, for that is your future, eternity. It will be good for you or bad. And for you, my dearest friend, I've done what I could to make it good for you. There we go. Right, Kat? We're just going to keep doing it over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. So, what do you guys think? You want to keep reading academic papers on Scientology? I am so displeased with the camera placement. Just not making me happy. And that's a problem. Yeah, it was a lot, wasn't it, TCD? It was a lot. I think it was interesting. It was an interesting comparative religion paper, just talking about the themes that L. Ron Hubbard drew from and how he might have constructed what he constructed. Oh, lady, you're so sweet. Jeannie, how are you doing? I am so excited about the 1000.
Lady Jane out. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. One of my dream jobs is to be a voiceover artist. I don't know. And then the dog goes off. Hilarious. Cat, you're very sweet. You're very sweet. So let's read these titles, guys, so you have a taste of what's coming up. This one is out of Popular Music, and it's called With All Praise to Your Exalted Frequencies, Consider Me Your Friend. Listening, Technology, and Musicking in the Church of Scientology. This one is called Scientology and Sex, the Second Dynamic, Prenatal Engrams, and the Sea Org. And it is 20 pages long. Good night, Chica. Sleep really, really well. I hope you sleep really well and have a wonderful day tomorrow. This one is Studying Scientology as an Anti-Democratic Institution. Suggestions and Cautions to Future Researchers. And then this one is Seeing Apostates Clearly. Reconsidering the legitimacy of ex-member testimony in documentary representations of Scientology. This one is called The Third Wall of Fire, Scientology and the Study of Religious Secrecy. This one is The Occult Roots of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, Aleister Crowley, and the Origins of a Controversial New Religion. This one is interesting. It's politics and religion. And it's called The Church of Scientology, Legitimacy Through Perception Management. Really interesting. And this one's called The Repetitive Rhetoric of Miscavige's Battle, a preliminary look at the Church of Scientology. And it's a paper on rhetoric in religion. This one is called It Is God's Will, Exploiting Religious Belief as a Means of Human Trafficking. And then this last one is called What Would Ron Choose from the Islamic Basket? Notes on Scientology's Construction of Islam. So what do you guys think? It's very interesting. Very interesting collections of papers. Hi, Red. You are the first person to show up after the third Minnesota goodbye that just happened that I didn't call. How are you? How's the house coming along? Is it getting appropriately organized? That's okay. We're glad to have you here. We're glad to have you here. There is no late. You're here just the minute you're supposed to be. And we are glad to have you. I gotta figure out what to do with this ugly wall above my monitor, you guys. I just have this big, huge wall. Kat, I'm busy sitting here going, who's Ted? Who's Ted? I can't figure out who's Ted. It's a typo. It's a typo. I should have figured it out. Silly me. Silly me. So, did everybody have a good Monday? Yes, I know, Red, you're Ted. Did everybody have a lovely Monday? You were looking for Ted too? Yeah. Did Ted sneak in and I didn't know it? How did that happen? Today was the end of my vacation. That's okay, Kat. I'm sure it's okay. I thought it was funny. I just couldn't figure out who you were talking to. It has been a really lovely 9 days of practically nothing on my agenda. I am disappointed to. Oh, you did your kitty rescue day today? That's excellent, Red. That sounds like so much fun. What do you do at the kitty rescue? Do you just sit with the kitties or you do kitty help things? So those of you who don't know, so I have my employer helps me find clients who I then work with, and the client is kind of actually the employee, and my employer is kind of like a middleman, sort of. I mean, but they get to hire me or fire me, right? Hello, Janelle. And so the week before last, my client, who I've had for just about a year now, discontinued services. And I have a few ideas why she discontinued services, but none of them have anything to do with me. And both my employer and her personal representative agreed, because her personal representative asked if I wanted to work with a different one of her clients. So that all means that I've had the last 9 days off with nothing on my agenda, except you guys. You guys have been on my agenda. And I had therapy a couple of times. But other than that, I have had no place to go, nothing to do, nothing due, no schoolwork that I had to take care of. Zilch o mungo. And I tell y'all, it has been
Yes, an unexpected summer break has been well needed. I didn't quite realize kind of how much I just needed some time with nothing on my plate. I wish I could have more time with nothing on my plate, but that is not the way it's going to be right now. So it's been nice. It's been an unexpected summer break and I've really enjoyed it. But I have a client on Wednesday and probably interviews upcoming with other possible clients. And I will be back in business, hopefully with a client that I like as much as I liked before. Clean their cubes, replace the water, food, toys, give lots of love and cuddles. That sounds excellent, Rad. That sounds just excellent. So guys, what is don't miss today? What did you watch that I need to go watch today? I watched Scooter Mom, I watched Nora, I watched Liz, I watched Brain Fog. I watched a lot. But what did you guys watch today that was really great? And I'm currently without a show to watch. If you guys have any show recommendations, we just finished watching My Lady Jane, about Jane Grey. Cat. Okay. So we finished watching Lady Jane Grey, I think on Netflix. Was it on Netflix? 1,000 subs. That's right. Are you guys getting Amazon Prime? Lady Jane was on Amazon Prime. You watched Natalie, Nora, and Nora on Down the Rabbit Hole News, and Crazy Love, and Liz Ferris, and Aaron. I haven't watched Aaron today. What did Aaron talk about today, lady? Red, you've been busy unpacking, haven't you? You can listen while you unpack. What do you listen to when you unpack? Do you listen to music? Everybody seems to be fighting. Tori's holding down Blue. The power of older women is something to behold. Everyone does seem to be fighting. I am glad that Nora seemingly came to Liz's defense. That was really nice to see. That they're not actually fighting. I know she was a Tudor queen for 9 days. Have you seen this new Amazon Prime show, Lady Jane? Lady Jane Grey's pretty amazing. it's pretty good. I'd really recommend it, especially Lady Jane, as she is your namesake. It was a lot of fun. I'm hoping that there will be a second season. You've been listening to music? Excellent, Red. You had to take a break today? Crazy has been reaching out and taking swipes at you the last couple of days. I'm sorry about that, Janelle. I'm sorry about that. You've studied Tudor history for years and years, but just recently found out about her right before you found Aaron's channel. Oh, lovely. Do you watch? There is a great YouTube historian, Lady Jane. Oh my goodness, Nora was live again and we missed her. She was live again and says it gets worse, you guys. Okay, let me look. There is this lovely historian. Give me a minute. I'm going to have to scroll. I know she's out there. Hold on. Reading the past. You should go and check her out. You've been trolling incels? Wow. Okay, check out that channel, Lady Jane. I think you'll like her. She has a lot of really great stuff. Where do you troll incels, Oregon Valley girl? You did see that one more? We're just moving the camera all over the place. Nope, it's gonna fall. You watch a lot of them, and there are a couple who use modern technology to make our portraits look like they are from our time. It's really cool. Very cool, Lady Jane. Now the camera's starting to bug me again, guys. Yeah, it should take you to her channel so you can subscribe. You already subbed to her. Good, Lady Jane. The one of Nora. Thank you, Lady Jane. The new one of Nora. I'll drop that right here for you guys. Sunrise Dawn, how are you, sweetie? Here's me again trying to move my mouse. Yep, that's the second live. Nope. Yeah, after the last Minnesota goodbye, I didn't announce a fourth Minnesota goodbye either. But it probably is time. That's the second live, Lady Jane Outs. Nora's second live. Just after me. Red was first after the third Minnesota goodbye. We are doing okay. We are doing okay. We had a whole ass paper on technological exorcism, body thetans, and Scientology's secret mythology. She did one with Rabbit, then she did then she did the one I dropped the link for after that while I was live, Lady Jane Out. She did a second one. She did a live, and then she did a live with Rabbit, and then she did a second 30-minute live. Ooh, so I should go watch Becky. Hey, I was just asking people. Robert, good night, sweetheart. Sleep well. I hope you rest well and have a wonderful tomorrow. I really hope you have a wonderful tomorrow. And to all you guys, it is past the 4th Minnesota goodbye. We are way at 2 hours. I do not like my face quite this big in the camera as I am seeing it right now. So I say she got on a rant about he who should not be named. Sleep well, Robert. Okay, I will check it out. I will check it out. I got to go watch Nora, because if you don't know Sunrise Dawn, Nora went live after she was on with Rabbit. So, I got to go watch Nora too. So, that is it, you guys, unless you have Milk Dud. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, guys. I will see you, if not tomorrow, then I will be here Wednesday for Wednesday's Wheel of Carrie. No Faces, New Game. We will have some conversation ideas and pull them out of a hat. Bedtime for you? Yeah, it's kind of late, Sunrise Dawn. Okay, everybody. Hugs and hugs. And I will see all y'all next time I see you. Until then, take care, y'all. Take good care of yourselves.